You know what's funny about masturbation? Aside from the faces that we sometimes make when we're doing it, what's funny to me is that it's a universal practice. That's right, almost everyone on this great big beautiful planet is doing it. And yet hardly anyone ever wants to talk about it. And unfortunately, it's that sort of silence that has allowed so much misinformation and outdated material and even myths move forward and prevail in our modern day society. In fact, there are some materials that are so outdated that are out there still. It's sort of like opening up a book today and being told that the earth is still flat. It's simply not true. We know more and we know better. My name is Mickey Allen of Mickey Allen Coaching, and I am on a mission to educate and liberate women so that they can live their most fearlessly passionate lives without shame. Now, there are some old popular myths that are so old and so outdated that they're not really that common today, but I want to cover them just in case you've heard them so that we can correct that misinformation. Masturbation does not give you hairy palms. It does not cause acne. It does not make you gain weight. It does not make you lose weight. It will not be the first step to becoming lesbian or gay. It does not make you any sort of sexual deviant. It does not mean that you're going to become senile. It does not make you insane. It is not infidelity. It is a natural, normal, healthy response that human beings have. Did I mention it doesn't cause acne? One myth that still prevails is that masturbation will make you lose your desire for having intercourse or sexual relations with someone that is your partner. That simply isn't true. On the contrary, if anything, knowing your body and what pleases your body can actually help you explain and show your partner what it is that brings you the most pleasure. Another myth is that you can give yourself an STI. You are not going to give yourself a sexually transmitted infection. It's nigh impossible. Now, the caveat to that is if you're using toys that have been used by other people and they're not clean to where they're sanitary, then yes, it is possible that you can transfer an infection. Also, it's important to note that we never play with anything anally and then go to vagina. So, of course, the message here is if you're playing with toys, make sure they're cleaned with a proper toy cleaner, because I'm a safety girl. Another myth that really ruffles my feathers because it sounds like guys are trying to make excuses and also repress the women. That myth is that men have to masturbate, but women don't. Baloney! While it's true that maybe 5 to 10% more males masturbate than females masturbate, the truth is that nearly everyone does, and it's perfectly normal. But nobody has to. And while we're on that subject, let's touch on another myth that's closely related. And that is, if you don't masturbate ever, something is wrong with you. That simply isn't true. Whether you abstain from masturbation for religious reasons or cultural reasons, or you're asexual, or you have no interest in it whatsoever, that's perfectly fine. You do you. It's also true that there's no such thing as too much masturbation or too little masturbation. The only time you ever need to be concerned about masturbation is if it actually interferes with your ability to live your daily life in a functioning and healthy way. Another myth that I have actually heard or read about recently in some chat rooms is that masturbation can make you infertile. That simply is not true, but I understand where the myth comes from. In very, very specific situations, for example, if a partner is trying to impregnate their other partner and they're trying to make a baby together, if they have a low sperm count, their doctor may suggest that they limit the number of ejaculations that they have and discourage them from masturbating often because they want to keep, the sperm in there and ready to do their job the moment fertility hits with the partner. So that's a very specific situation. Just the act of masturbating itself will not make you become infertile. The final myth that I want to dispel and that I find is extremely important to dispel, especially for those people who are in long-term committed relationships and marriages. That myth is that if you're in a relationship, your partner should not masturbate. There are studies that have shown that people who are actually in committed loving relationships might actually masturbate even more for a myriad number of reasons. The fact is, masturbation is not infidelity. Masturbation does not mean that there's something wrong with you or that there's something wrong with your partner. It does not mean that there's something wrong with the relationship itself. It may just be a very healthy, normal occurrence. The only time a red flag should be raised is if it's completely out of the ordinary behavior that your spouse exhibits, or if it's breaking boundaries that you and your partner have already set. For example, if you and your partner have agreed not to watch pornography and you find that your spouse has, that does not mean that your spouse is being or your partner is being unfaithful. It means they're breaking boundaries, and that needs to be discussed. That's where communication surrounding masturbation is so important. If you haven't discussed masturbation with your partner, I lovingly encourage you to do so. Most people cite the fear of rejection and negative response from their partner as to why they don't really bring it up. But if you are in a committed relationship and if you're married, this is something it's healthy to discuss. If you discuss masturbation with your partner, just remember to come from a place of acceptance and love and understanding, and not one of rejection or judgment, because that's going to shut the conversation down very quickly. Now, if it's something that you don't want to do or partake in, I'm not trying to force anyone into thinking they have to masturbate, because remember, one of the myths we dispelled is that if you don't, you don't, and that's perfectly fine. You be you. If it's something that you're interested in or you're curious about trying it, go to mickeyallen.com. In my blog post, you'll find one entitled Finding Your Buried Pleasure, and it does talk more about how to learn more about your body and find your pleasure points. I have had people say to me, "Oh, Mickey, you're so cavalier about this masturbation thing. What do you say if you find out that your husband is masturbating?" Well, I usually only would have one of three responses, and that would be A, can I watch? Or B, hey, I'm next. Or C, thank God he's taking care of business here at home. He's not going somewhere else to have his needs or desires met. So put a little butter on that and eat it for breakfast. It could open a whole new door in your relationship, a good door, a blessed door, a fulfilling door. Knock, knock, knock. Ooh, it's getting warm under these lights, or is it just me? It's hot in here. Is it hot in here? But of course, I chalk that up to, cultural conditioning and religious repression, because even in churches where they're talking about it being a sin, then you still have the guys that are like, oh, well, guys will be guys, and nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Ugh. No, Mickey, go ahead. Tell us how you really feel.